Hey, folks, this podcast is brought to you by King Arthur Capital Group. Fund your fight cam, showing fighters how to leverage credit and capital so they can treat their career like a business. Love sharing that information with as many people out there as possible. Find them on Instagram at Fund Your Fight Camp. It used to be King Arthur Capital Group. Now it's Fund Your Fight Camp. Check out that old interlude episode with David King Arthur McElroy. You want even grittier details about King Arthur Capital Group. Check out Fight Club Crate. Mystery fight gear, knockout prices, undisputed value, combat sports boxes delivered monthly. Use my promo code TAPTHAT15 at Fight Club Crate for 15% off your first purchase. Follow those folks on Instagram at Fight Club Crate. Very cool stuff that they include in those boxes. They're adding new, variety to it every day. Very cool products, and that's a good gift idea always for the combat connoisseur in your life. And finally, Substats is the analytics and intelligence platform for competitive grappling. They give promoters, leagues, commentators the data they've never had with matchmaking tools, athlete profiles, event breakdowns, and match analysis powered by computer vision. If you compete, you promote, or you just love competitive grappling, check them out at substats.app. If you're into competitive grappling, Substats is building the analytics layer the sport has been missing with athlete profiles, event intelligence, and match breakdowns. Check them out at substats.app and Substats on Instagram. Abraham always putting out super cool videos of what their product can offer with all those different tools and how it breaks down, different grappling sequences. Very cool stuff. Use my promo code TAPTHAT for 10% off your initial purchase there. And what is up, everybody? This is Brady Grove bringing you another interlude episode of the Top That MMA podcast. And with me today, she, as a professional, was 9-4 in the bantamweight division. Spent time in Invicta, 6 fights with the UFC. Give it up for Julia Raging Panda Avila. Julia, thank you so much for being here. How's it going?
It's going great. It's going great. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be on a podcast again. It's been a hot minute since I've done an interview. So, um, excuse me if I'm a little rusty.
No, so I saw you were at UFC OKC the other day. So what was the atmosphere of that event like? Did Oklahoma City bring the energy pretty well?
Oklahoma City showed up and showed out. I actually got a little in my fifis because I never got to perform through the UFC for Oklahoma. I did a large part of my professional career in Oklahoma City through HDMMA and even Invicta, but I never performed under the promotion of the UFC, in large part because my career was during COVID, and I notoriously in 2020 I had
Oh.
nine canceled MMA fights in the UFC. I fought twice. I won one, lost one, but I had 9 canceled fights. And so I looked really good during 2020. But yeah, I never got a chance to perform in front of my home crowd. And so that really, really hurt. And I was looking at both of my coaches that were there. And then even one of my coaches from afar, I messaged him and I was like, look, I'm sorry. I never got to have this opportunity for you guys and for this hometown because I would have killed it. I would have killed it. But yeah, Oklahoma showed up and showed out as they always do.
And that's a really interesting environment for live MMA because like there's not like it's not like you go to like Chicago and it's like, oh, those people love karate, and so like they really appreciate karate sequences. But like in Oklahoma, those people love wrestling, and there's always a very strong like wrestling presence in the building. And so it's unique because that's an area where they appreciate one element of MMA that like not isn't necessarily appreciated in a bunch of other places.
Yeah, and it's so fun to see, people just appreciate when it goes to the ground, and not just be like, "Oh, stand them up." But there's always going to be those people in the crowd. I actually, my my husband and my friend had to hold me back because there was someone who was yelling, "Boo, stand them up," that was sitting next to us, and I turned around and I was like, "Shut the fuck up." I got a standing ovation from the people around us. I was like, dude, you don't understand what's happening on the ground. You don't understand what's going on. And like, I understand supporting your fighter. I understand supporting the fights, but like, don't boo them. You don't know what goes into that. You don't know what they're doing. Like, as a fight, I straight up, I was like, fight me. Fight me. I got a gym. Sign the waiver and fight me.
It's like the thing is, even if you don't have like any experience with any fighting stuff at all, it still should like there should be a part of people's brain that appreciates that there are some people that are high level professional athletes and then there's the rest of the world. And so a lot of the time like when you like okay, so if you see an NBA player that's like really tired and people are like, "Oh god, why is he tired? He's supposed to like these guys are supposed to be like fit for every situation." It's like, I don't know, man, but I think if that guy's tired, he's probably got a pretty good reason for being tired.
Yeah, absolutely. But you'd be surprised at the audacity and the self-confidence that some people have.
Yeah, the thing is, like, I've attended, like, regional events that were in, like, Louisville in the Northern Kentucky area, and whatnot, and, like, Ohio Combat League. The Louisville event was actually an LFA one, and LFA, for being as high level of a, regional promotion as that is, it's hard to even call it a regional promotion when really it's, like, considered a top 10 in the world promotion. People are
Oh,
just
you're breaking up. Sorry. I missed that last part. Oh no, I don't have you. You're gone. Can you hear me? Marco. I'm so sorry. This is live. Hello.
okay. There we go. There we go. Think I got you back. There we go.
We're good.
So yeah,
Um,
I think we're good. What I was getting to was like you hear the dumbest comments from people in the crowd, and it gets so frustrating. Like there's a difference between someone having a bad take on like whether you should stand them up. Like if you just like are supporting a fighter and it's like if a guy is just not being really inactive on the ground, which even I still don't think you should stand it up. I really don't think you should ever stand it up. But also there is a line where it's like some people will like who don't know in the crowd will someone they'll have back control and they'll be like stand them up and it's like you're kind of ruining the experience of watching this.
yep, absolutely. No, I wholeheartedly agree with that. And I mean, I feel like it's our responsibility to educate them. So I'm just gonna get, this bad bitch that just stands up and tells them to shut up.
And folks, it's not a snobby thing because also if you were at a basketball game and every time the point guard got to half court, there was a guy next to you screaming, "Shoot it!" You'd be like, "Dude, stop! You should not shoot it."
Absolutely. No, I feel that. I feel that's so hard.
And so the amazing thing about your professional career was your first professional fight was in 2012, and that was against Marion Renault.
Hmm.
2 fights later in your 3rd professional fight, you fight Nico Montano, and so it's like, that was, like so and then, that being now however many years ago that range of fights was, that is, like, an interesting thing about, like, the history of women's MMA is that as, like, in those periods of time, you look back at the start of someone's career, it's like, Jesus Christ, they fought who in their first 3 fights?
Yeah. And I beat a lot of people in their prime. Arguably, I mean, I feel like I should have been in the UFC a lot sooner than I was, but everything happens for a reason. I went the path that I went. I don't know I don't know why, but it worked out. I had a very successful and happy career in the UFC. But yeah, I remember being the little asterisks on Marion Renault's when she fought in the UFC. I think I forgot who her first fight was against. I don't. It wasn't Holly Holm. She didn't fight her until later. But the little asterisks, her like 2-1 or 3-1, and that little one was me. I was like, oh, look at that. And then Nico Montano, same thing. I was her last loss before she became the inaugural champion at flyweight. And, you know, that it was after her big win, it was the decline of her career. But I, you know, like I can hang my hat on that. You know, I was top 15 my entire career in the UFC. And unfortunately, because of, you know, injuries and like the world as a whole, I didn't get a chance to perform my best when I was at my best. So, I mean, we'll never know what happens there, but it's okay. I think I left my mark.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, like you were a fixture in the rankings for a very long time, and you know you never fought anybody in the UFC who is like you look at them and it's not like an incredibly respectable opponent, you know, win or loss. And then the thing about Invicta too is especially Invicta then. They haven't been able to be as active lately, which is a shame. I always want to see more events from Invicta. But with Invicta at the time, it really wasn't like UFC Invicta. It was like there's some overlap between like people in the UFC and Invicta at the time. Like there were people that were in Invicta and on their way up to becoming Invicta champions that if they had been in the UFC, they would have just been climbing the UFC rankings.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's not any secret that Invicta was the stepping stone, like much like LFA is the stepping stone to get into the UFC. That's where we found out all of these champions that came through there. I mean, Rose, Joanna, Misha Tate, so many people. Freaking literally almost any female athlete um that made it to the top in within the past 10 years went through Invicta. I mean, shoot, even the commentators. I got some of the commentators in there, and it's been really really amazing what Invicta did for women's MMA. And you're right, it is kind of unfortunate that they haven't been able to provide as many, but I think MMA and women's MMA has really taken a turn. Um, but that being said, there's also a lot more opportunity for combat sports. So it's really kind of just like splintered off into so many subsects that there's just a lot out there, and combat sports is really saturated. So there hasn't been a lot of focus on women's MMA.
Well, and I think another point too is I think that at the time it was very necessary like it was extremely necessary for there to be a promotion that was just putting on women's fights you
Mhm.
know to give you know that platform. Now it's that women's MMA has been around for as long as it has. It's more like blending. Like you're seeing like women headline Cage Fury events and LFA events and stuff, and like that probably wasn't the case at the time. And so it wasn't something that like you could do that as a main event at a regional promotion and it'd be fine now. And before, I don't think a lot of regional promoters would have made like headlined with women's fights like on a smaller scale basis and like different, you know, smaller geographic areas certainly. But it's crazy because that is where like in this sport where you find like the innovations where it's like, hey, why are we not doing these fights? It's always those are the promotions that's their quality that they hang their hat on too. Strike Force was putting on those fights before anybody else, and it was like, well, dude, if you want to watch those fights, you want to watch these fighters, you watch Strike Force. And then same as like the WEC, just being like, yo, why is there not like 125 through 145 pounds being fought at the highest level? It's like, well, if you want to watch the best, you want to watch Aldo and Uriah Faber and Anthony Pettis, you have to watch the WEC. So but like it seems, and that's the other thing with Invicta too is it'd be so important for there to be a promotion that still is like able to put on more events that's just focusing on this one thing, because if you want to see that brand, like that's a very unique, thing, and with a lot of history behind it for Invicta. And you need a platform for more women's 145 and women's 105-pound fighters, because
Mhm.
there's not a lot of people that are putting on those fights. But you could always respect, even without knowing who it is or who they've beaten in their career. If you say that someone is the Invicta atomweight champion, that holds a lot of weight.
Yes. Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And actually, to backtrack a little bit and to touch upon how important it is to have women's MMA. And so in smaller areas, so not smaller areas, but in the Midwest, in Oklahoma, in the state of Oklahoma, I was the first female I was a part, the other half was Nico, to headline a combat sport, whether it be boxing, MMA, Muay Thai, in 2016. In 2016, or no, 2017, because I got married in 2016. It was 2017. In 2017 of the year of our Lord and Savior, I was the first one to headline. And then not far after that, Julia Budd and I believe it was Chris Cyborg for Bellator. Then they headlined down in Oklahoma, down south in a casino. But um, I mean, that's how far removed women's MMA is from MMA. And that's why it's so important. And after I was able to prove that I can bring in a crowd, then Invicta came through and they they hosted 2 or 3 fights here in Oklahoma because of what we were able to bring. And I mean, women's MMA is so technical, so amazing. It's not just two people going at it, right? Like, I mean, these girls go hard. Um, and it's super impressive. One of my favorite fights in ever to watch is Wele versus Joanna Jurdzetsky, where Joanna's head swelled up, but it was 5 rounds of just pure carnage, and it was just so fantastic. But I mean, like, women's MMA, I think a lot of it has just been sensationalized. And I think MMA in general as a whole has been sensationalized, and people are now playing characters, and it's more so going towards the uh, like WWE sort of sensationalism, and that kind of, I feel like I got out when I should have. Oh no, did we lose you? I think I lost you. It's okay. I I talked myself out of the interview. I lost him. Hi friends. It's just me. I feel like I should Ashley Simpson dance my way out of this. I'm so sorry.
All right. Folks, I'm going to try to get this back on. My God.
You there? We're back.
There we go. Oh my God. I I think that one was me. Yeah, I think that one was me. We just moved into a new house, and so I just don't. But I don't know how the internet has been. I don't know what affects the internet really. But anyway, unfortunately, it cut you off during some very poignant points you were making about how crazy it was that you headlined that first. You were the first, women's fight, the headline in Oklahoma in 2017. Um, you know, the thing is, I bet Oklahoma is like still not last place on that list. Like, I
No.
bet, like, I, I don't know, like, if I had to guess, like, maybe Utah, maybe not, like, but like, if my first thought was Alaska, but then I was like, no, I guarantee a women's fight is headlined
Oh,
in
there's
Alaska.
yeah. Um,
Um,
Gina Manzani, she actually came from Alaska. Yeah, I hold a record against her. 22-second knockout, fourth fastest in the UFC.
That's awesome. I mean, like, those are cool, like, facts to have associated with a career. Like, it's, I mean, obviously, for as critical as fans can be, the thing is, it's an amazing thing for a person to ever make it to the UFC, even if it's somebody that loses in the, like, all three of their fights and leaves and they didn't look good in those fights. It's like, dude, that's still like, if you like went around with him, you would realize that, oh, like, that guy's better than any guy I've ever like done anything against in a local gym for sure. He's way better than all those people. Like, because I've never, people can appreciate that, but like, to have a career where you get to, like, look back and say, like, damn, I knocked somebody out in 22 seconds. Like, that is pretty cool.
Yeah, it is really exciting. It's kind of fun, especially when I go into like meetings or people meet me for the first time at work and they're like, "Hey, you used to fight, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, can I bother you for 22 seconds of your time and I'll show you my fight?" But yeah, no, it's pretty fun. It's I I feel like I did mess up because I really tried to wear a lot of hats. I still continue, like every millennial, to try to do 10,000 things at once. But in in my career in the UFC, I was still working full time. I became a mother, a wife, owning a gym. So trying to being a coach, trying to wear all those hats, I think also played into a little bit of my focus being scattered towards the end of my career.
I mean, because it's so hard at the highest level of sports, whatever sport it is, when you don't get it. This was my ultimate point against when Conor McGregor returned, like, and why I on a betting episode of this, I was like, me and my brother both put our entire DraftKings balance on Max Holloway, and it's like, not a it's not a it's not necessarily a knock. It's that when somebody is like Conor McGregor, and I know that that dude has to have had 1,000 distractions, self-imposed or not. It's just really hard to stay on the top level of sports if your attention is on has to be on a bunch of other things. Then it's hard, because there are some people that also, where their life is at, they don't have 1,000 other things to do, and so they're just thinking about one thing.
Yeah. No, and I mean it's also like he was king. He was king when he was king. But for him to take that long of a layoff and then come back and start from the top, like, no, dog, you got to earn your laurels again. Like, I understand that you were out of the testing pool, but like that doesn't mean you can just jump back in because you're juiced up. You know what I'm saying? Like, you come in and you earn your keep to be back there. That's it. It gets really, really frustrating. But like I said, he was the top of his game when he was the top of his game.
And it's not like I'm not necessarily knocking the UFC for doing that main event, because the thing is, he just has this special rule associated with him. Like, because he is as famous as he is, it's like he could come back in 8 years and they'd probably like find a main event like to put him in. There's they do that, and they're a company, so it's not like surprising to me. Like, Netflix has put on some super goofy fights too, but we but the thing is, and what was the point of all that? Oh, yeah, is when you're like when you're a whiskey mogul and you're getting sued and you run a bunch of other businesses and you haven't fought in a while, and the last time that you fought, you snapped your leg in half. Those are all things that maybe make me think that maybe you're not as good as Max Holloway right now, who's been fighting consistently against the best people in the world.
Yeah. I definitely don't think he should have taken that fight. It was an ego fight. He obviously doesn't need the money, so it wasn't a money fight. I think it was an ego fight, and I just don't think he should have taken it personally. Like, he finished how he finished. I understand. I understand wholeheartedly wanting to finish with a win. I feel that deep in my soul because I really, really wanted that. Um, but my body just doesn't have it in it anymore. And I need to know, as an MMA fighter, as an athlete, you need to know when to hang your hat. You need to know your body limitations. You need to know your dedication because it is such a dangerous sport. And if I'm trying to perform with all these other savages that they don't have their distractions, like you said, but I'm trying to hang, like I can get hurt really, really badly. And I just, my husband doesn't deserve that. My daughter doesn't deserve that. My career doesn't deserve that. So, I think fighters need to know and need to have that introspection. We need to put people around us that can tell us that know how to check us. I don't think he has that. And I don't think he will have that because he's such a good character, right? He's a money draw. That had how many views? And it lasted like 3 seconds. So many jokes. Oh my God, the jokes coming through. Sorry.
And I I mean the part that bothers you about it is like if he had legitimately come back and had legitimately hurt his leg in the fight, it is one thing. But that it seems like he was probably hurt a little bit beforehand. Like that. I look. I don't know. I'm not a doctor, and I'm not Conor McGregor, but it I- if I had to, everything about starting off the fight with a flying kick,
No, did we lose him?
kind of sense. After that, this is
Oh no, I think we lost you again. I'm so sorry. We were doing so good. Oh, there you are. Hello? Ah, no. Can you hear me? Oh, there you are. Hello? No. I'm so sorry.
there we go.
Did we do it?
Okay, are we back now?
Yes, I think we're back.
Okay. So now I started thinking about the retirement process, when you were talking because you were talking about that thought. And then I loved how you brought it back to Conor McGregor, like at the end with like a beautiful lesson. Because, like a lot of people don't have that person or that group of people around them. Elvis didn't, you have to think that some fighters that like there's been a lot of people that are just like that are 50 and they were legends of the sport in boxing and MMA and they're fighting and like Chuck Liddell should not have fought Tito Ortiz that
Oh,
last time. Like that was just like that's what the lead up to it, knowing it was actually going to happen, and then the aftermath of it was all like the worst thing to watch happen. So that group of people, or just like, is this something that like, as people get to a certain point, like is it like a slow progression? Like, is it a lot of gradual thoughts and conversations with people around you that ultimately like give you an idea of when you're gonna bring your career to an end, or is it something that happens like a little quicker, like after certain events take place?
for me, it was a defining moment. I remember training for a fight. And I mean, I still have the drive in me. I still come out here and when I train, it's hard. Like people don't like having rounds with me because that's what I've trained to do. Um, and I've had to temper that back. But I remember one defining moment. And I don't know if it's the same for other people, but I remember that morning when I was training and I told one of my coaches, I told one of my friends, I was like, I have that dog in me. I'm not done. I'm not done. And I remember after a hard day's training, I was giving my daughter a bath and oh my God, I'm going to cry. I couldn't pick her up. My knees gave out and I couldn't be a mother. I couldn't be anything. I was a blob on the ground because something as simple as picking her up because my knees gave out. And I mean, I've gotten in some fights in the cage where like my bone was sticking out and I was laughing, right? Like I have that drive. I have that I have the resilience for it, but when I can't do something as simple as pick up my daughter, then I know I need to refocus and do better for her because ultimately she's the one that I care about, and my husband, they're the people that I care about. So I don't know if other fighters, other athletes will have that realization or that moment, but that was the defining moment for me is when I knew that I couldn't be my best self for the people that mattered, right? Like I loved being a source of inspiration for the masses, for people that I will never meet. I get messages all the time. To this day, a father messaged me. He said, "Thank you for working with my daughter in 2008 because that changed the trajectory of her life." I still get these messages. And there are thousands of people that I will never meet that I affected positively, and that was such a great source of inspiration for me. But when I can't positively affect my family, then that's when I knew I needed to hang up the gloves.
Damn. Yeah. I guess it's different for everybody, you know? I think that, there's probably a lot of people that like, because where it's hard to understand, although where the motivation comes from, is when people have been retired from like, an age where you would expect a fighter to retire if they've had like a long career. And then like a couple years go by and it's like, I'm coming out of retirement and I'm going to fight. And it's like, I would be fascinated to know like the thought process is for some of those, but though what it is, they just want to do it again. Like that's it. Like that is the thing that or I mean, some people certainly take some opportunities because there's a big payoff. Like there's a reason a lot of people go to the like do those like Netflix boxing matches and stuff is because there's a lot of money involved. So that makes sense. But there's a lot of people that like just want to fight again over every other thing.
Every day that I step on these mats, I'm think to myself, I can do this again. I can do it again, but at what cost? You know what I'm saying? So, like I said earlier, from when we started talking, there's so many splinters of combat sports that we can go into. Now that we have aged, like I still compete in jujitsu. I'm still a fucking boss. Like I'm good at jujitsu, and there's divisions and there's weight classes. Like, I mean, I can do masters, right? So I'm not having to go against these young bucks anymore, right? Calvacanti, who's 10 years younger than I am, and she pieced me up, right? I'm not gonna give any excuses. She pieced me up. She was fantastic. I landed a couple on her. I gave her a run for her money, but it's there's so many different avenues now. Like there's power slap, there's fucking competitive chess, I'm sure somewhere, right? Like,
Yeah,
um,
and I'll tell you, my brother can tell you all about competitive chess. I'm not, but like, yeah, like, no, I love that point, and that's a great perspective to have in this era because, like, in 2006, if your fighting career ended, you're
you're
that.
done.
What is there? And
Yeah.
now you could start a podcast about the competitive judo scene in the Northwest area of the United States, and there's 1,000 people that would want to listen to it.
Yep.
There's so many things. There's karate combat. There's dirty boxing. Like they're only coming up with like crazier stuff. There's the leg kicking competition. I forget what that is. There's but so there's so many things that like now that this has kind of like exploded, it, that like the fact that like bare knuckle and karate combat have like been able to put on levels of events that they have, and the fact that bare knuckle has just only grown since it came around. When it before in MMA, things like that were considered a flash in the pan, and bare knuckle has only grown for two companies to really be competing for who's putting on the best bare knuckle fights. So there is just so much out there in terms of opportunity, and as all the facets of MMA are expanding, you're finding that there is an audience for a lot of really specific stuff. And in fact, that is where people find their best successes in like very niche things.
And not, I mean, not to even just limit us to continuing the combat, but I mean, there are a lot of intelligent fighters that can commentate, that can assess. DC, Poirier, Misha Tate, Laura Sanko. Like, there's so many people that go finish their fight career and start going into the commentating aspect. And they give a lot more respect to the athlete, right? Because a lot of people used to see us as Neanderthals, right? They're just, oh, they fight, they punch, blah, blah, blah. And like you said, in 2006, when they're done, who wants to hire these, CTE survivors? So now there's a lot more respect to the analysis, to the sport, the science of the game. Um, so it's really cool to see the evolution and the um the uh, the niche environments of everything, and where fighters end up. I mean, I'm a scientist, right? And now I'm a gym owner. So it's been really cool to see what fighters end up doing. Are you there? Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, did we lose you
Are we
again?
back?
Should I move? Do you think it's me?
All right.
In the yellow chair. Oh no. Hello.
Are we back?
I hear you. I see you.
All right. All right. There we go. Um, Okay. So then, and yeah, the in terms of evolution of the sport, like the commentators is always an interesting one to look. Like the level of professionalism from like fighters who are commentating, and then also the level of knowledge for people that are like not fighters, but are like just the commentary like dudes. Who, they host like minor league baseball games too, and like other stuff like that. Like there used to be like so many more just like general sports guys on the call for MMA fights who like had to like learn on the go like a lot of stuff about MMA. But now you're seeing a lot more people that are like they're the TV guys and they know a lot more. And you're seeing a lot of fighters that it's like a guy knows how to talk about fighting, but he also knows how to talk into a microphone to a lot of people, which is a different thing.
Yes. Yeah. Let us not forget that Joe Rogan was the host of Fear Factor and then became a commentator on the UFC. Like, he did get his black belt, but I'm pretty sure he got it as he was commentating. So he was one of those people that was learning about the sport as the sport was growing. So there was just a lot of people that were thrown into that. Now we have people that are high level athletes in MMA that have become commentators. So it's just a whole nother level of relatability of being able to explain it. And it's just, it gives a lot more for the consumer, for the viewer to really process and digest rather than like grab them by the dick and twist it. Like, no.
A guy kept yelling that at the LFA event I was at in Louisville over, and it was a women's fight. So they
Oh,
kept saying it was even worse. I, yeah, that just brought back a like really annoying memory for me.
yeah. Sorry. I didn't mean to trigger you.
No, and yeah, like I was people gave Mike Goldberg a really bad rap, like even at the time, and especially now, when people watch fights now of Mike Goldberg talking in like 2005 or something. It's like, oh, why did you say that about that? And it's like, dude, the sport was like brand new. Like there was like not that guy had to learn about the sport as the sport was becoming a thing, which is so so I always thought, I associate so many great fights in my head with Mike Goldberg's voice.
Nice.
So it's hard to get rid of that. Like that guy is like that voice is deeply entrenched in stuff. Like you watch a fight in 2000, you put on like a Chuck Liddell Tito Ortiz fight. And you hear his voice, and it's like, oh, that was the time. Like him and Joe Rogan, that was such a hilarious combination for a while when you look back at it from what commentary teams are now. But that's what a lot of people grew up with.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually did not start watching MMA or like any sort of combat sports until I started participating in them. And even then, I wasn't like super, super involved. So I didn't start until like 2012, 2011, which is when I started for like training outside of like cardio kickboxing or anything like that. Like that's when I just hit the ground running. And I actually had my first fight like 6 months after I started training. My Marion Renault.
That's crazy because it's crazy to hear that was like that was your like involvement before starting like training and everything. And then to think that it then becomes like a long tenured career and very successful in the sport. Like it's like, oh, like this, okay, like, oh, the UFC fights, I'll start watching that. And then like however many years later, it's like, and Julia Avila, congratulations on a phenomenal career. Like, whoa, that'll happen like pretty quickly.
Well, so I'd always been an athlete. I was a D1 track and field thrower for Notre Dame while I was there. I ran a marathon. I ran ultra marathons. I've always been top of the game as far as like performance and drive for my athletic pursuits, whatever they may be. So like when I'm in something, like I'm in something. So so when I first met my husband, actually, like he didn't train. And I was like, hey, if you want to spend any time with me, like you got to start training. And it it took him like 4 months. I still to this day outrank him, even though we're both black belts. I'm a first degree, no big deal. But no, it's one of those things that like I mean, I'm the type of person that if I'm in it, I'm gonna finish it. Like, and then the people around me, whenever I tell them that I'm gonna do something, they don't laugh, they don't question it. They're like, all right, what do I have to learn? I told my husband, and this jokingly, like years ago, I was like, hey, when I'm done fighting, I might have a run at the Olympics. And he's like, okay, what do I have to learn? Like no hesitation, no hesitation. Because that's just the type of person that I am. I see things through.
Ultra marathons, that's got to be a crazy thing to train for.
Yeah, it was fun. It was fun. It was a really good experience. I remember so I remember my watches dying. I remember the evolution of like running and ultra running. and the technology is just not being what it is now. I would go out for like 30-mile runs and my little iPod Nanos or whatever, like dying on me. And I was like, all right, well, what do I do now? No, but I really enjoyed it. I wish with every ounce of my being that I could still run that kind of distance, but my knees just don't hold up.
I Yeah, the technology in every sport really, like, I mean, I can't imagine, like, because sports like football and basketball, like, they get, like, a lot of head starts in, like, technology. Baseball, a very analytical sport, and it's like, there's always you see, like, there's a billion different things that's out there in, like, scouting and performance in other sports, and, like, for runners and, like, I imagine probably for cyclists too, like, the amount of technology is it it's like it's unlimited in the potential of what they, because people who are training for stuff like that want as much information really as they can. They want, and it's like important that the technology holds up, for, or if it's something as simple as, not really wanting to run, for hours without any music playing in your ears, like, you don't want that to be a problem either.
Yeah. Luckily they have fixed that. I'm sure I wasn't the only one that complained. But I mean, we don't learn about what our body's capable until we push it to the limits, right? So like maybe there was people like me that had to run 6 hours straight and go, hey, Fitbit, hey, Nike, you guys got to fix this because you died 3 hours ago. But yeah, there has been a lot of evolution in sport, endurance sports, combat sports. Like I remember in the infancy of MMA that there wasn't even a darce. People didn't know what darces were, or like the evolution of the sport brought about new and unique different ways of submissions, of knockouts, of like rule sets. uh the grounded opponent and the definition of that, just that in and of itself, right? Like you can look at it and be like, oh well, we had to evolve because the sport evolved, because people were finding ways to curtail the rule set. I mean, the same thing for judo, right? Like you can't touch the legs. You can't touch the legs because wrestlers were coming in and killing these, third degree shodans that and so it's really cool to be a part of the culture and community that forces these evolutions. I hope you get to piece together something nice.
Okay, we back.
Yes.
All right. Well, all right. So to avoid that happening again, like, to put a bow on this conversation, like, so in the UFC right now, like, I think, like, they're maybe kind of searching for who, like, is going to be, like, who's possibly a next, like, superstar, because, like, Valentina is, like, it has, like, the most amazing career ever, but, like, how much longer, and what's next for her, how much longer, can amazing careers go on? Hell, Cyborg, I guess, is still out winning different belts and stuff. But but also, like, women's boxing is an amazing place. Like, it's you can knock Netflix and other, different, like, fight promotion companies that put on some goofy fights, but on Netflix they have put on some of the most, like, amazing women's boxing matches, and, like, full cards, where they're, like, all headlining, and it's all the most amazing names in boxing. There's a lot more of that women's boxing, like the top, 10 in the world, pound for pound, are stars. People, they are draws. And there's a lot of people too that like are huge draws. Like the Irish always show out for like their fighters. So like women's boxing in a great place. And so, like, what do you think the future holds for women's MMA in terms of like the evolution of it? Like, what do you think is going to make it better, from top to bottom, in like the whole world of MMA?
I am really interested to see what happens with women's MMA and MMA as a whole. I think we've really steered away from the true nature of MMA, which is just seeing who's fucking better, right? One guy versus the other with compatible skill sets. Um, Now it's become like this sensationalized, like, who's this character? I just want to see two people fight, right? I want to see blood. I want to see technique. I want to see grind. I want people to find themselves. But now you have people like Josh Hokett, who's just a fucking character throwing up on himself, like just saying bullshit things. And I'm like, dude, you're a good fighter. You don't have to do this. Like, you don't have to do this. There's a sport for that. Go to WWE, right? If you want sensationalism, go there, right? I want, and these women, like a lot of them have to play a character or sexualize themselves in order to get looked at. And it's like, there's so many good fighters. And so I'm really, really hoping, and I pray to God that we go back to what MMA was, what women's MMA was, and just find good fighters that want to put on a show, that don't have to sensationalize themselves. Um, Fatima Klein, Fatim Klein, she killed it. She was an amazing fighter. And Tabitha Ricci, like, she's fantastic too, right?
Mhm.
Neither of them over sexualize themselves. They're just good fighters that put on a show. And I don't think that fight got even like an Atta girl. And I think it's our responsibility as viewers and as patrons of the sport to be like, hey, no, fucking look at them. They were good fighters. Dricus, he did fantastic against Usman. He was a whole nother fighter, but like, that was a good fight. But these women put on a show. And so I think it's putting on true fights like this, like that card, is going to be great. That's what we need in the sport. And I want more of that, right? I don't need to see someone shaking their ass. I don't need to see someone throwing up on themselves. I don't care about that. I just want to see good fights. And I hope that that's what we get.
Yeah, unfortunately, in this world, when things grow to the level that the UFC, because like when you watch the UFC in like 2004, it's a very raw feeling. When something's on Spike TV, and that was a very raw experience. And as the UFC grew and the money that the entire package is worth grew, and then you're with ESPN for a while, and that's never good for maintaining a raw feeling. Like ESPN will kind of wash it. And now with a Paramount, it's like, as things grow to the level that you think they deserve to, at like in that period of time where it was like, that's just a raw thing, like, but as they grow, it's just like, it just seems inevitable that they just lose some of the purity that led it there in the first place. It just unfortunately seems inevitable. I don't know what of anything in the world that can maybe like be an exception to that. Because college basketball too, like they just expanded the NCAA tournament, and it's something that nobody wanted. nobody wanted the NCAA tournament bigger. Everybody made it very clear they wanted it to be the exact same, and they did it anyway. And it's like, well, cool. Thanks for ruining my favorite thing, like of the entire year. That makes it so much lamer. We told you no, but you did it anyway. And so it's an unfortunate thing about like a sport that with the UFC you've been able to watch grow in such a microwave period of time. Like
Mhm.
over from when it actually had like a financial stability to the present is like very fast evolution of a sport when like all the other sport they took 100 years to get to the point where they are now, but with the UFC we've seen it grown so quick. And so the people that are watching the product now and have watched the product for a while, it's like, yeah, like I remember the differences very clearly, like because and there are strong differences.
Yeah, I think I'm really hoping, and I fully, fully believe that it'll go back to that. Um, it's there's just the athletes, like we as athletes, we're not actors. Like you can't have us be monkeys. Like we're just fighters, and we just want to fight. Like, I mean, that's the long and short of it. And I know that there's a lot more people like me.
And folks, this has been a conversation. The Raging Panda, Julia Avila. Julia, thank you so much for being here. This was a fantastic. We covered a lot of topics, and I it, the freaking internet. Like, I swear to God, if that happened one more time, I was going to lose it. But Julia, thank you so much for being here. It was always great watching you. Throughout your career, you had a fantastic run in the UFC and a fantastic run as a professional. If there's anything else you want to say or anybody you want to shout out, the floor is yours.
If you guys are ever in Oklahoma City, please feel free to come into my gym. It's called Outsiders Combat Club. We are always welcoming travelers, and to all my friends, local, international, thank you for always being a part of the Raging Panda family. And I love you guys.
Folks, thank you so much for listening. Have yourselves a great week and peace.